Okay, here we go. Welcome everybody to the 2016 NDSU Spring Fever Garden Forums. And this is where we connect the gardeners with the NDSU researchers. This year, we're going to reach out to over 1,000 gardeners across all counties of North Dakota. My name is Tom Kolb, an extension horticulturist for NDSU, and I'm here with our production directors, Scott Swanson and Bob Birch. And we're here to talk to you, give you the latest information about gardening trends and the latest information, the latest research from North Dakota State University. Whether you're attending at an NDSU County Extension Office, and I want to give special thanks to the hardworking county educators out there, or whether you're participating at home, we want your full participation in the forums. And so the way we're going to make this work is that we're going to have a speaker talk for about 20 minutes, and this is followed by question and answer session. And to ask your questions, for those of you who are on Blackboard Collaborate, please type your questions into the chat box, and then I, who serve as the moderator tonight, I will read the questions to the speaker, and we'll try to get as many questions as we can in the allotted time. Okay, so with that, I think let's get started. We've got a lot to cover tonight, and so let's get rocking and rolling. Alan, I don't know if you know this, but an old horticulturist once said that if your yard is a painting, then your lawn is the humble canvas. How about that?
I would agree with that.
Okay.
It's pretty close.
That was me who said it. I said it I thought about an hour ago. Okay, a healthy lawn can serve as a pleasing backdrop for all our majestic trees and our colorful flower beds. And tonight we have our turf grass specialist from NDSU, Alan Zook, who's going to give us some tips on how to establish and maintain a great lawn. Alan?
Thank you, Tom.
Okay.
All right, I have 20 minutes, I understand. I have 20 minutes to turn you into turf experts. So I'm going to kind of move through these slides. And one thing I want to point out right away, that a good landscape can add up to 15% to the value of your home. So think about that landscape when you put your home on the market. Okay, so what's the first thing you want to do when you're getting ready to establish a new lawn or rejuvenate an existing lawn? First thing you want to do is get a soil test. It's your roadmap to success. You don't know what's going on below the soil unless you have that soil test. So what you want to do is take 15 to 20 representative samples out of each part of your yard, out of the front yard, out of the backyard, out of each side yard. 15 to 20 samples from each area. If it's an existing lawn, you want to go down about 3 inches. Okay, if it's bare ground, go down about 4 to 6 inches. Take these samples, put them in a bucket, mix them up, and then just take a sandwich bag or a plastic baggie or something. That's all they need, at the soil testing lab. Technically, they need about 100 grams to work with. So put them in a baggie. Sometimes they'll give you a bag, and use that for the basis of your soil test. And then they'll usually interpret the results. With that, you know what nutrients to add to the soil before you get started. Okay, you can use a soil probe, but most homeowners don't have a soil probe out in the garage, so you can use a hand trowel. But whatever it takes, get those soil samples, again, 15 to 20 representative samples. Take the thatch layer off. You don't want that to give you a false organic matter reading. Take the thatch layer, pull it apart, and throw it off to the side. Just put the soil in the bucket, mix them up. There again, 1 sandwich bag should do the job. Okay, let me back that up. When seeding, you want to provide about 1 pound of phosphorus per 1,000 square feet. That allows the plant to get established and to develop a nice healthy root system. So 1 pound of phosphorus per 1,000 square feet after you're through seeding. Okay, you want to keep the seed bed moist. There's no reason to go deep. You just want to keep the seed bed moist, and it depends on the type of soil you have and environmental conditions. If it's windy and say you have sandy soil, you might be watering 4 times a day. 10 minutes a session. Just keep the seed bed moist. If it's calm and you have clay soil, you might be able to get by watering once a day. Okay, after the seed germinates and the roots start to grow, concentrate on depth. But at the time of seeding, you just want to keep the seed bed moist. Okay, what type of grass should we plant? Well, that depends on what part of the state you're in. How do you know which grass is the best? I recommend that you go to a website the NTEP website, the National Turfgrass Evaluation Program. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself there. ntep.org, O-R-G. It's not C-O-M, but it's O-R-G. And it will tell you what turfgrass does best in your part of the state, no matter where you're at. What ryegrass does best in northern Connecticut? What Bermuda grass does best in central Oklahoma? Each state has an NTEP testing site, and it's usually at the state university. Some states have multiple locations. Here in North Dakota, it's here in Fargo. This is our testing site. It's our only testing site. But from these NTEP tests, we determined that here in North Dakota, the best Kentucky bluegrasses are Bristol, Glade, Ken Blue, and Park. And on down the line, the best fine fescue is Navigator. Tall fescue, believe it or not, tall fescue does do well here in North Dakota, and the best cultivar is Bonanza. Even warm season grasses, some of them do well up here. Buffalo grass, the only native warm season grass to the United States, and it's native to North Dakota. In fact, it ranges from central Mexico up to the Canadian border. But there are a few that do really well. Legacy, a female cultivar without those shabby male flowers. Bowie and Cody are two seeded cultivars, which will give you male and female plants. And the Bismarck Ecotype. Even Blue Grandma does well up here. We suggest Bad River Ecotype out of South Dakota. Sometimes you'll hear about zoysia grass being advertised in North Dakota, but don't fall for it. It doesn't grow up here, so don't fall for that one. That's a warm season grass that will not make it this far north. This is the website, ntep.org. Visit that website. You'll be amazed at the information that's out there, or that's available to the public. When it comes to seeding, we have prescribed seeding rates that you should adhere to strictly. Okay, Kentucky bluegrass, 1 to 2 pounds per thousand. But look at tall fescue, 7 to 9 pounds per thousand. Why the big difference? Well, Kentucky bluegrass is such a small seed, whereas fescue is such a large seed. And what we're shooting for is about 15 to 25 seeds per square inch. So by following these rates, you're going to get that application rate. Okay, what you want to do before seeding is to prepare a nice seed bed. You want to provide seed to soil contact. Otherwise, we're not going to get a good establishment rate. If you broadcast seed onto unprepared ground, of course, it's going to germinate. That radical is going to come out, but then it's not going to adhere to the soil, and it's going to die shortly after that. Let me back up. I think I lost a slide here. But the advantages to exceeding these prescribed rates, the only advantage is you're going to get a quick green up. That's it. The disadvantages, you're going to have competition for water and nutrients below ground. You're going to have competition for sunlight above ground. You're going to have a canopy that's so thick it's going to impede air movement through the canopy, which will allow diseases to get established, especially at nighttime. The main problem is that the turf seedling will never reach maturity. This is a problem if you seed in the fall time. You send that turf seedling in the winter in an immature state, it's not going to make it through. Okay, and research has shown that if you exceed these rates, you're in the same place you would have been a year later if you follow the prescribed rates. So basically, you're wasting money for a quick green up. So follow up the prescribed rates. Okay, how can you establish seed to soil contact? Let's say you have an existing turf. You don't want to start over. You just want to renovate what you have, or rejuvenate, I'm sorry, what you have. This is called a verticutter. You can rent this at any one of these rental outfits, in any major city or any medium-sized city. What this device will do, this verticutter will cut grooves in the soil, okay, allowing the seed to fall. It will allow the seed to fall in the grooves. When you water, the grooves close up. The seed is allowed to grow and establish. It has good seed to soil contact. When you pick up one of these machines at the rental outfit, make sure they're giving you a verticutter, not a power rake. Okay, what you want to do is tilt it back and look to see if it has stationary knives in place. That's a verticutter. Okay, and what you want to do is put it down flat, drop it to the lowest setting. Make sure the knives touch the concrete on the sidewalk. That way you know they're not too dull. If they are dull, they won't even reach the soil surface, and you're going to have to wind up taking it back, losing time, and get a better machine. Make sure the knives are sharp and long enough to do the job. And this is what the finished product's going to look like. You want to verticut in 4 directions, north to south, east to west, and 2 diagonals. That's going to allow you enough grooves. Again, it's going to produce or provide good seed to soil contact for the seed to fall into the groove. Once you water, the groove closes up, bearing the seed, and then providing for good establishment. Again, another finished product right here. Probably it looks like a football field after it's been verticut. The grass will grow in. You'll see those rows. You'll see the seedlings in rows, but as they mature, the rows disappear. Don't worry about those rows staying with you for the lifetime of your lawn. They will close up and they will become unnoticeable. Another option to provide seed to soil contact is to get an aerator. Pick up an aerator at, again, any rental outfit. It's gonna, and this is what I'm showing you here, the deep tine aerator. You don't need to get a deep tine aerator. Just the tines will be about 4 or 5 inches long. They'll pull about a 2.5 to 3 inch core, as you can see here. Believe it or not, this provides excellent seed to soil contact. The seed will fall in the hole. As you water, the hole fills with dirt, pulling the seed up or allowing the seed to raise up. And sometimes it'll adhere to the side of the cut mark, the side of the wall. It's nice and humid down there. Again, providing nice seed to soil contact. In an ideal situation, you'll core aerate and then you'll verticut. Again, providing good seed to soil contact, allowing that seed everything it needs or giving it every chance to get established. Okay, and here you can see how the turf roots take advantage of those aeration holes. Okay, weed suppression. What are your herbicide options at the time of seeding? Well, there is a pre-emergent, or what a pre-emergent is, it kills weed seeds as they germinate. As that first radical comes out, it touches the treated soil and dies. Unfortunately, you can't apply a pre-emergent herbicide at the time of seeding because it doesn't know the difference between a weed seed and a grass seed. It's going to kill the grass seed as it germinates. However, there is one product called 2%. The active ingredient is called Siduron. It's weak enough in its formulation that it will not harm grass seed, okay? But it will kill some weed seeds. I've tried this product before. It's a 6-week product. You have to reapply every 6 weeks. And I'll tell you what, in my opinion, too many weeds get through. I'd rather not work with this product, even though it's labeled as a pre-emergent that can be used at the time of seeding. I've never had really good luck with it. So there's really not a good pre-emergent that you can use at the time of seeding. You'll just have to make a choice. Do I want to seed this year, or do I want to control crabgrass, barnyard grass, goosegrass, whatever that usually occurs once the soil warms up to 55 degrees? There's a post-emergent herbicide that does really well, even on small grass seeds. This is called Drive. The active ingredient is quinclorac. You can apply this when the grass is about 1/8 of an inch tall. It does really well, eliminating weeds, grassy and broadleaf weeds, after they germinate without harming the young seedlings. There again, you can apply this when, again, the new seedlings are 1/8 of an inch tall. It's called Drive. Okay, how do you apply the seed properly? Okay, we talked about the right seeding rates. Well, you have a couple options: a drop spreader, broadcast spreader, seed mats. Seed mats actually work well for small areas. I wouldn't invest a lot of money in a large area, certainly nothing bigger than the size of this room, but seed mats work fine for small areas. Okay, here's a picture of a drop seeder. It would be on my left, I think it's on your left too, and a broadcast spreader on your right. What you want to keep in mind though, with a drop spreader on your left, when you're applying seed, you want to go hopper to hopper on your return passes. Don't go wheel track to wheel track, because that wheel is probably spaced 3 to 4 inches away from the hopper. It's going to leave a gap, and that gap will not fill in if you're working with a bunch grass like ryegrass or a fescue. So remember, on your return pass, go hopper to hopper. The broadcast spreader, they vary, but they can throw out 12 to 14 feet or 6 to 7 feet on each side. Okay, timing. As far as seeding cool season grasses, spring and fall are our best options. But here in North Dakota, it's cool enough that you can actually seed throughout the growing season. But spring and fall are your two best options, with fall being the best option. There's less weed competition in the fall time. And when you disturb your soil in the springtime, you're also preparing a nice seed bed for the weed seeds like crabgrass, goosegrass, barnyard grass, foxtail, whatever. So fall time is your best option. For warm season grasses, late June, early July. I mentioned buffalo grass will make it up here, and so will blue grama. If you want to seed a warm season grass, late June, early July. You want to get them cut 2 or 3 times. Well, with cool season grass, you want to mow them 2 or 3 times before winter sets in. Warm season grass is the same thing. You want to mow them 2 or 3 times before they go into winter. Okay, so get them out late June, early July. There's also what we call dormant seeding. You can put the seed out in the fall, okay, before or after soil temperatures drop below 55. And you can also overseed in early spring if the snow melts. If the snow melts off, and there again, time's available. You can seed right now. The grass seed is going to sit there until the soil temperature reaches about 55, and then it'll take off. That's called dormant overseeding. I mentioned the prescribed rates. If you dormant overseed in the fall, this is the only time we recommend that you go over the prescribed rates. You should add 20% to compensate for the seed that's lost to runoff, birds picking it up, wind scatter, and so on. Okay, there again, add 20% if you dormant seed in the fall time. It's just going to lay there until the following spring when the soil temperatures warm up to 55. Okay, we talked about overseeding there again. How do I water properly? Well, you want to water deep and infrequent, okay? And hopefully you can get your watering done in one session for the whole week. You want to apply 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch each week if your soil will absorb it without noticing any runoff. If that's the case, try to get it done in one session. By applying 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch, it should infiltrate down about 6 to 8 inches, which will encourage deep root growth, and that's what we're after. Okay, how do you know when it's time to water? You'll notice wilting first, and the grass blade will wilt by twisting, kind of like a newspaper, twisting, okay? And then a little bit of a purplish tinge. By allowing your turf to go under water stress just a little bit, you're encouraging deeper root growth. You don't want to push it too far to where you hear it crunch underfoot. But again, just a slight wilting, the twisting of the blade tells you that it needs to be watered. And ideally, you want to water once a week, again, 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. Okay, how do you know? Well, most homeowners don't have graduated cylinders, but you can put equal size cans out, coffee cans or something. Run the system or run your hose with the hose end sprinkler for about a half hour or an hour, and then go by and measure what's in the can. That'll tell you how much water you're applying per half hour or hour. Okay, this illustration here shows you on your left the effects of shallow, frequent watering. Let's say you like to mow your lawn after you get home from work, right before supper time, bleed off a little stress. You go out there and water for about 20 minutes. That's it. You're just hydrating the top surface. That's it. This does not encourage deep root growth. Okay, as a result, your lawn gets weak. It gets weak. The weed seeds are allowed to compete after they germinate, or the weed seedlings are allowed to compete after they germinate. On your right, look at the effects of deep, infrequent watering. You go down 6 to 8 inches, okay, encouraging deep root growth. Let's say you go out of town for a week or two and you don't water your lawn. That's okay. It dries out on the surface, but it's still wet 6 to 8 inches down. Your turf is still in good shape. Okay, this illustration here shows you on the left the effects of, again, shallow, frequent watering. The only thing happy here in this situation are those weed seeds. You see them right there, those little brown dots? They're always hydrated. You're allowing them to germinate, to get established. And again, remember, your turf canopy is weakened at this point. Those weed seeds will eventually take over your lawn as a result of frequent, shallow watering. With deep and frequent watering, again, you water deep. It doesn't matter if the soil surface dries out. The bottom depth of those roots, or the deepest roots, are still hydrated. Your canopy is still in good shape. Those weed seeds have no chance to get established. If they do germinate, they're crowded out. They're shaded out by that thick canopy. So a thick canopy, a nice vigorous lawn, is your best line of defense against weeds. Okay, shade out those weeds as they germinate. Choke them out. Okay, outcompete them with a nice, healthy, vigorous lawn. And I think that's okay. A few words about fertilization. There again, rely on your soil test. Okay, incorporate nutrients before you plant if you have that option. Okay, as far as fertilizing goes, we have 3 numbers on the package. In this case, 2733. That stands for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those numbers indicate the percent bag weight of each element that I just mentioned. So in this case, let's say that's a 50-pound bag. The phosphorus, we would have 1.5 pounds of phosphorus in that bag. Try to key off those numbers when you apply nitrogen or phosphorus, or potassium for that matter. How much fertilization do our turf grasses require here in North Dakota? Well, let me spin through these fly-ins right here. High quality Kentucky bluegrass, about 4 to 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet, providing no more than 1 to 1.5 pounds per application. Medium quality bluegrass lawn, 2 to 3 pounds per 1,000. A low quality lawn, about 1 pound per 1,000. Let me spin through this again. If you do not collect your clippings, that accounts for 1 pound of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per year. So if you don't collect your clippings, you're adding a pound of nitrogen to your turf. What are the target dates? Memorial Day, 4th of July, and Labor Day, with Labor Day being the most important. At that point, late fall, you want to get that application down to develop a nice healthy root system to allow the turf to get through the winter months and have enough stored energy to green back up in the springtime. So if you only fertilize once a year, key off of that late summer application day, early September, Labor Day application. Again, apply 1 to 1.5 pounds per 1,000 square feet at that time. Okay, there again, I just mentioned fall time is the most important. So if you fertilize once a year, key off of that fall date. Again, once a year, early September, twice a year, do it in July and September, 3 times a year, late May, 4th of July, and then early September around Labor Day. And that's my presentation. We'll take a few questions. We have about 10 minutes for questions.
Chat right now, Tom, that I see. So if you want, you can go ahead and jump some down for yourself.
Okay, we're looking for questions. Just anybody can type them in the chat box. Okay, Alan, when's the best time of the day to water your lawn?
The best time of day is morning, if you have that option. Let me jump ahead and say the worst time of day is after supper, early evening. Naturally, our nature is going to give us leaf wetness from about 9 in the evening to 9 in the morning in the form of dew. That's 12 hours of leaf wetness. This is when diseases get established. If you like to water your lawn after supper, say around 6 o'clock, you just added 3 hours of leaf wetness to that period. So now we have 15 hours of leaf wetness. Again, this is when diseases get established. So the best time is early morning. Okay, you don't want to water in the afternoon because most of it's going to be lost to evaporation. The best option is to water in the morning.
Okay, Alan, what do we do? What's the best herbicide for crabgrass, and what time of the year is the best time to manage that weed?
Well, our best line of defense, again, is a nice, healthy, vigorous lawn. Choke out those weed seeds as they germinate. If you're looking for a chemical approach, we recommend a pre-emergence herbicide. Okay, and that should be applied before soil temperatures reach 55 degrees. The best pre-emergent herbicides out there are Dimension, pendimethalin, and Barricade. Now, Barricade takes a couple weeks to activate. Keep that in mind. The nice thing about Dimension is that it will kill crabgrass up to the 3-leaf stage. So it does have some post-emergent ability. So if you're out of time, your best choice for a pre-emergence herbicide is Dimension, which is dithiopyr. Okay, if you have time, if you have the luxury of time, you can put down Barricade, but keep in mind it takes a couple weeks to activate. Whenever you apply a pre-emergent, be sure to water it in. This is usually what it takes to activate the herbicide. Okay?
Thank you. And pendimethalin is very common on the market. Right?
It is. And let me mention again, Tom, a Drive is a good post-emergent herbicide. I mentioned that before earlier in my presentation.
Okay, what do you do when the neighbor's dog goes on your lawn?
Well, that's a common problem.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it's going to leave a burn mark because of the high salt content in the urine and high nitrogen in the dog feces. Try to get it picked up as quick as possible, watered in, okay, to flush out those nitrogens and salts. Okay, there are some products you can get at the nursery to repel dogs, to keep them out of your yard. An old remedy is blood meal. Okay, that's one way. I know that chases raccoons out of your gardens, and it does kind of repel dogs. And there are some synthetic products you can pick up at the nursery. And as far as, let's say, if it's your dog causing the problem, brewer's yeast in their diet can help neutralize some of the effects of the urine and feces. Okay?
Good.
Check with your vet about brewer's yeast.
How do I control dandelions?
A phenoxy herbicide. Trimec is a good one. 2,4-D is a good one. The only thing is when you apply those phenoxy herbicides, you can't seed for about 3 or 4 weeks. And you shouldn't apply a phenoxy herbicide until you have mowed your new lawn 2 or 3 times. Okay, but a good phenoxy herbicide does well in controlling dandelions. Okay.
And when we put in our grass, should we put a nurse crop in with that grass seed?
Okay. I mentioned ryegrass. Ryegrass is really not that cold hardy here in North Dakota, but you'll find it in a lot of our mixes. So why is it there? Well, ryegrass will pop up in about 4 days. It gives you quick green up, but its main purpose for having it in our northern mixtures is that it acts as a nurse crop. It pops up quick and it holds the other seed in place until it has a chance to germinate. These nurse crops are especially important if you're seeding on a hillside. So there again, ryegrass isn't that cold hardy. I would say if you planted ryegrass lawn, you'll probably lose it in about 3 years. You'll lose about 1/3 of it every winter, but it does serve a purpose as a nurse crop, keeping the other seed in place until it can get established.
How about what can we do about night crawlers?
Night crawlers. You about have me stumped on this one. Yeah. There are some products out there I cannot recommend.
They got to be on the label. Don't insecticides are sometimes
Right.
used.
I could recommend
but
salt,
it
but
has
that's
to be
not
labeled.
legal. It's not labeled.
So yeah, just
there are products out there to repel mollusks, but I cannot name one for you. I'm sorry about that.
don't worry about it. How about quack grass?
Quackgrass is probably the worst weed in the northern United States. It's a perennial. Okay. It's a rhizomaceous perennial. You cannot pull it. Okay. We have a similar weed in my home state of Kansas called orchard grass, but it's a bunch grass. We pull it out and it's gone. You cannot pull quackgrass. Quackgrass, the mother plant, has a chemical in it that keeps the dormant buds along the rhizome, keeps the buds along the rhizome dormant. When you pull the mother plant out, she no longer produces abscisic acid. Okay, those buds start to grow. So you pull the mother plant out, all these other quackgrass plants appear. Where did they come from? Well, along those rhizomes. You pulled the mother plant out, she's not there keeping those buds dormant anymore. Okay, you cannot pull quackgrass, and there is no labeled herbicide for quackgrass. It's a tough one. Your only choice is Roundup. Start over. There was a herbicide called Certainty, but it lost its cool season label. So there's nothing out there. And Certainty didn't kill it, but it suppressed it. It did a good job of suppressing it, but we can no longer legally use Certainty on cool season grass.
Maybe now's quackgrass is so aggressive.
It is.
So now's a good, or the spring, that'll be one of the first grasses to green up. So that's easy for us to target it with Roundup, for example.
Yeah,
spot spray,
there
for
again,
example.
Roundup's
Is that right?
non-selective. So if you
Right.
target it over your desirable lawn, you're going to have
Of
burn
course.
spots out
Yeah,
there. But really,
right.
there's nothing out there other than Roundup.
Just mow your lawn shorts and nobody can tell the difference.
Sure.
That's what I was taught. Should you mulch with peat moss after you seed your lawn?
Pete, that's going to be an expensive approach. Well, there's nothing wrong with it, but in being dark, it's going to absorb solar radiation, heat up the soil, and sure, that's a good idea if you can afford it.
That's a great soil amendment.
But the thing, no matter what type of mulch you use, make sure it's clean. If you bring in straw or hay, you're probably going to bring in some weed seeds with it. Most peat moss is going to be clean if it's bagged up, but it is kind of an expensive approach. On a large scale, it is. If it's a small yard, you're just, again, seeding spots. Sure, it's an excellent form of mulch. A 1/4 inch will do it.
Alan, do you recommend just straight cool season grasses, or should we have a combination of warm and cool season grasses in a lawn?
Okay, warm and cool season mixes do not work. I know Kansas State's working with a fescue, zoysia mix right now, but typically cool and warm season grasses do not mix well because they're green at different times of the year. So right now we do not recommend a warm and cool season mix.
Okay.
I suppose the person's looking for green all throughout the season, but it's just they don't mix well. They don't mix well.
How about underneath a big tree, the grass just doesn't grow? They use a shade-tolerant grass seed,
Right.
and it looks good the first year, but it can't tolerate winter. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, again, Navigator tall or a fine leaf fescue is the best fine leaf fescue for North Dakota, and it is shade tolerant. Okay, consider Navigator fine leaf fescue for deep shade And that goes down about 5 pounds per 1,000 square feet.
And when you apply seed, should you rake in the seed in the seed bed?
Yes, you should. I mentioned earlier that it's important to establish seed to soil contact. And even if you verticut or aerate, or you do both, afterwards you do want to rake it in. If it's a large area, drag mat it in. Put a piece of chain link fence behind well, hopefully you have a little golf cart or something like that, or behind your riding lawnmower. That'll help drag it in. So yes, I do recommend that you lightly rake the seed in after you're done. Okay.
How about, boy, you got a lot of rapid fire questions here going on. So we're keeping you hopping.
That's okay.
How about when you fertilize a lawn, should you cut the grass before or after you fertilize, or does it make a difference?
Well, as far as fertilizing goes, no, it doesn't matter. If you're going to seed, you want to cut the grass short and then go ahead and seed. Fertilization, it doesn't matter. No, it really doesn't matter. Just get it watered in after you fertilize. Now, keep in mind the grass is going to grow, so you might want to start off with a mowed lawn first, because once that nitrogen activates, that grass is going to respond and it's going to start to grow.
What was that raccoon remedy again you had there?
Blood meal.
Blood meal?
Remember, it does smell, so most animals are attracted to that smell, but it will repel raccoons out of your garden if they're out there eating your tomatoes. Consider, again, that's an old home remedy. Blood meal under each plant. But just keep in mind, it does produce a foul odor.
Yeah, raccoons aren't a major pest on lawns, though. How about, if someone's got an answer about night crawlers, they can type in that answer. We're all a group here sharing our knowledge together. How about, we got a question from West Fargo. The soil is very high in salinity. What do you recommend for fertilizer in a saline soil?
Oh gosh. First of all, I would recommend that you try to get rid of your salinity issue, which is very hard. We have a very high water table here in North Dakota. On campus, we can dig down 3 feet and hit water. Okay, the problem with that is that when it rains, the water table raises. Okay, and as it raises up, it pushes salts up to the surface. When things dry out, it recedes, but it leaves the salts behind. Okay, what you want to do is get rid of the salt, and the only way you can is to flush it out. But then again, we get a good rain, it's going to bring the salts right back up to the surface. I can't recommend a fertilizer that does well in saline conditions. I still, if your turf demands, nitrogen application, again, nitrogen, 1 pound per 1,000 on, again, Memorial Day, 4th of July, and again on Labor Day. But there's just not a specific fertilizer out there that's recommended for saline conditions.
Right, that's such a hard question across the whole state, and
it is.
You have to put some drain tile underneath your lawn.
And when it comes to flushing the salt out, it takes a lot of water.
So maybe we can have Dave Franz, and our soil scientist. Maybe he has some wisdom on that in a session later on this month. We'll try to remember that question. How about a grass that stays short so you don't have to mow it very often?
Well, now that's where I'd recommend the warm season mix. 50% buffalo, 50% blue grama. Okay, it's considered a low maintenance lawn. Both those grasses grow slow, okay, and they will tolerate a low mowing height. There is no cool season grass that's going to stay low. We have dwarf fescues, okay, but they are susceptible to brown patch. But as far as a slow growing grass, I would recommend, again, 50% buffalo, 50% blue grama, but keep in mind it requires full sun. Okay.
Yeah. Also, warm season grasses, you'll have the best lawn in the neighborhood for summer.
Right.
But your lawn will be a disaster the other 3 seasons.
It's going to be brown in the springtime, in the fall.
Brown in fall.
Right.
Brown in winter, which is 6 months winter alone. So be careful about those warm season grasses, right? In North Dakota.
Yeah, but consider a dwarf fescue. It's cool season grass, but keep in mind they are susceptible to brown patch.
Maybe just go easy on the just don't worry so much about fertilizing so much. Don't promote growth.
Sure.
Okay, I got a comment that aeration might help to deal with night crawlers. What's the best drought tolerant grass, Alan?
Fescue. Fescue, hands down, is the most drought tolerant cool season grass. However, if you let fescue go dormant because of summer heat, lack of moisture, it has the poorest recuperative ability. It is the most drought hardy of the cool season grasses, but the poorest recuperative ability. Keep that in mind. So there again, don't push it too far.
What's your feeling about crested wheatgrass?
Low maintenance grass. It's not going to give you a how should I say this, a quality lawn, but it does well in low maintenance conditions, I should say. But there again, don't expect a high quality lawn out of crested wheatgrass.
How about for lawn fill? Can we use bagged topsoil?
Lawn fill, meaning
Maybe just top dressing.
top dressing. Sure, as long as the soil you're bringing in is free of weed seed. Okay, that's
It's just from a bag, like you buy it.
oh, I
big
see what
box
your bag
stores.
soil, say from one of the
you
big
wanna
box
say,
stores.
it's a big
Sure,
box store.
sure.
How much topsoil should you have over a clay base? How much topsoil do you need for a new lawn?
Topsoil, you can grow a decent lawn with 3 inches of topsoil. There again, proper watering, proper fertilization, proper cultural methods. Really 2 to 3 inches of topsoil is all it takes. You'd like more, but again, you can get it done with again 2 to 3 inches of good topsoil.
Okay, winding down here. Do you have any wisdom on keeping red thread out of your turf?
Well, golly, that's such a, it's not that common.
For everything.
Red, yeah, that's a broad range.
You here tonight.
Okay, well, red thread will cause small dead patches throughout, but it's not all that common. Just be vigilant, okay? And it looks just like a piece of red thread growing from the tip of one grass to the other. Okay, once spotted, apply a fungicide. But the thing is, most fungicides are not marketed for homeowners. So you'll probably have to call in a professional. A lot of our fungicides contain antibiotics, which make them dangerous to the applicator, to your family members, and so on. So fungicides usually aren't marketed to homeowners. So keep that in mind. If you spot red thread and it's a problem, I would call in a professional. Okay.
Maybe now's a good time to promote Alan's award-winning publication about, hey,
Okay.
man, I don't know, maybe you were the only applicant for the award, but it won the award. I'm just kidding. But Lawn Solutions, right?
Sure.
That's the name of it.
Solution.
And
It's out there.
that's available from your local county extension office.
I think it's available online too.
It's available online too. And it's the most comprehensive source of information on lawn care in North Dakota. I gotta say, it's gotta be like 40 pages of color, and it covers everything, including red thread and all kinds of insect problems. Doesn't cover raccoons, but covers all the basics as far as how to have a good lawn. It's a very impressive publication, and one of the finest of NDSU extension. And if anybody has a question about lawn care, I would go to that myself. Lawn Solutions, right. And it's dedicated to homeowners. Okay, one last comment. This person used a grub control pesticide to get rid of night crawlers. Just have to give you a little caution on that, because you have to use the pesticide for the appropriate pest.
Right.
Okay, so you have to be targeting grubs.
Yeah.
Otherwise, the insecticide police will come and get you. Any last question before we stop talking turf? Okay. Thank you, Alan. What a great informative presentation. Thank you.